Hello and welcome back to the Stay Sure Wellbeing YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Dawn Harper and today I'm going to be talking about travelling with gut conditions. And the three main things that I really want to cover today are irritable bowel syndrome, travel sickness and gastroenteritis. So let's start with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. IBS is an incredibly common condition that affects around 1 in 5 people, and it's characterised by a heightened awareness of bowel activity but also probably stronger bowel contractions, and that can manifest itself as constipation, diarrhea, and often a lot of urgency associated with that diarrhea, bloating and nausea and tummy cramps. The problem with IBS is it comes and goes, and often it is flared by things like stress. And as lovely as a holiday may be, travel can be a trigger for a flare of symptoms. Other things that can flare IBS are a change in your diet or certain foodstuffs, and some people keep food diaries to identify the foodstuffs that will trigger their IBS. And it's also linked to our hormones. So if you're somebody who knows that your IBS flares around the time of your period, then it may be an idea, if you're choosing a holiday and a time to go, to avoid that time, because the added stress of your holiday planning and then your hormonal changes could leave you in trouble with your IBS. So if you are travelling with IBS, really important that you make sure that you have your medications with you. As always, keep them in their original packaging if you can, so that if you should need any more, you can ask a local pharmacist. If you're on prescription medications, as always, get that note from your doctor with both the generic and trade name, because different drugs, as I've said before, have different names in different countries. Really important that you maintain your fibre intake. For most people, and I say most of you will know your own IBS. I think it's one of those conditions that over a period of time patients get to know their own individual condition very well. For most people, actually taking extra fibre is a good thing in IBS. And I'd also be inclined to travel with probiotics. Now, whilst you may not be able to travel with liquid probiotics, depending on the volume of the container, you can get probiotic capsules, and I think it's well worth considering taking those with you, especially if you're going to be thinking about a slightly different diet. And always introduce new foods gradually. If you suddenly change your diet, you could find yourself in trouble. And a little quirk that I'm going to tell you, you can get from the Bladder and Bowel Foundation, you can get a free I Can't Wait card. It has universal language on it, and basically it means that you will probably be allowed access to a toilet in an emergency, because people recognise that you're someone that really can't hold on and wait. I've met way too many people with IBS who have put off holidays, even missed big family occasions like weddings, because they are so terrified by their bowel letting them down. So just knowing where the facilities are, planning ahead, knowing your airport, plenty of time so that you reduce your stress. But just think about that I Can't Wait card. It may be of great use to you. And let's also think about travel sickness. I suffered terribly as a child. Thankfully, I've grown out of it, but I do empathise with people whose travel arrangements are ruined by travel sickness. A few little tips: if you can, try to book a seat either in the middle of a boat or a ferry, or the middle of a plane where there is less motion, and therefore you're less likely to get travel sickness. And if you're travelling in a car, ask if you can travel in the front of the car wherever possible. Try to keep your eyes looking at the horizon. And you need to eat little and regularly. Ginger, interestingly, is often used by pregnant women to manage morning sickness. Even a ginger nut biscuit can often be good for travel sickness too. You may find that the travel bans available over the counter are useful for you from the chemist, and you may want to travel with travel sickness pills. Now, if you're going to do these, generally speaking, it's best to take them the day before travel and the morning of. They can make some people feel drowsy, so it is worth perhaps having a trial run on a day when you don't have too much on, so that if you do feel a bit drowsy, you can just adjust your dosing schedule accordingly to make sure that you can travel safely. And gastroenteritis, but of course it's not just Brits going abroad to third countries who might find that they get a lot of diarrhea. in relation to what they've eaten. It can happen the other way, and some of that is just our changing gut flora, which changes according to what we're eating. So it's a little bit like what I said about IBS. Try to change your diet very gradually. Always drink plenty. Check the water in your destination. Is it safe to drink from the tap? And if in any doubt, stick to bottled water. And with that in mind, watch ice as well. We tend to forget that, but if ice cubes have been made from tap water, then of course they could put you at risk. And again, if you're washing fruit and vegetables and so on, wash them in boiled water. So obviously you want to enjoy the cuisine of where you're going, but it's that kind of entering into it gradually. And as always, I think with anything really, with any travel, it's well worth having a few medical terms at your fingertips in the local language, but also knowing about the medical services available to you should you get bad diarrhea, and because diarrhea can leave you quite dehydrated. So for most of us it might be a bit unpleasant, but if you get persistent diarrhea you can get really very dehydrated, and certainly if you're starting to feel dizzy, if you're not producing much urine, then you probably do need to speak to a doctor. Make sure that you up your fluids. Your urine is a really good indicator of how hydrated you are. So people often talk about how much should you drink, but of course that depends on how active you are, the ambient temperature. And so what I say to people is actually just keep an eye on the colour of your urine. Your urine should be straw coloured. If it is darker than that, then you are starting to get dehydrated and you need to increase your fluids. And don't wait until you're thirsty. Thirst is the body's reaction to dehydration. So if you're feeling thirsty, you've already got a bit dehydrated. So certainly if you're in hotter climes, make sure you've got that bottle of water with you and that you're sipping on it little and often. I hope that helps. I hope you all have a lovely holiday. And as always, don't forget to tell me if you have a condition that you'd like me to discuss here on this channel. Then message me here or email us anonymously on the website. But until then, have a great holiday and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.